another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You're joining me for the round 4 review for the SuperCoach 2023 season. It was a pretty average week for me again. I think this score was 1 point lower than what I scored last week, so no real big difference. But it did move me up the ranks slightly rather than move me down them, which was all right. SuperCoach just unlocked, so without having a look at the teams above to see what's happened, I would say no Oliver and no Dawson were probably the two big ones that hurt me this week, but let's jump into it. So we're going to probably move away from the team-by-team reviews and just start looking at the teams, like my team, in terms of how it's going, talk about some of the options as well, doing the longer form podcasts, hopefully with George and Enno tonight. So we'll have some more in-depth stuff in that. All right, so in terms of where we're at in the season, it's round 4. So traditionally, we don't really trade at this time in the year, apart from if you've got injured players, premiums, that type of thing, whatever. They're generally the ones that we might start to look to move on at this point. But otherwise, generally holders gold is the saying that we go by. Is it? I'm definitely, I've got enough problems. I'm going to play around with this, like whether or not I trade this week or not. But yeah, generally, like we're waiting one more week. And the reason why is the rookies that we're making money off. The good ones, say like Sheasel, for example, still have a long way to go before they've maxed out on price, or even someone like a Chandler. And then other ones like, say, I don't know, maybe a Davey that hasn't been performing as well, or like Cowan or Wilmot, like they haven't really made enough money for you to trade them out and upgrade anywhere. So that's the weird place. Like the rookies just aren't ready to cull yet. Now, if you play fantasy, the one thing that is the exception for this is you can start to get off mid prices at this point, even if they haven't necessarily generated the money that you're hoping to get out of them, and start to upgrade this way and kind of get a leg up on others. So while they may have to wait if they're doing a more traditional guns and rookie strategy, you can start to move on mid prices that, have kind of made their money, are starting to plateau and get in some of the premiums that you want but don't currently have. So that's I think what we'll probably look at this week, whether that's an option. I think the other thing that's tricky is normally at this time of the year there aren't that many good downgrade options in terms of rookies to go to, because the really good ones usually have already been named and started playing, and so they're not usually too many on the bubble at this point that you actually want to get into your side. But we'll have a look at those as well to see if there are any good downgrade options. Okay. So let's start. Backline, pretty ugly this week. Bringing in Daws, after round 1 was a good move and continue to be a good move, but it's not unique. Everyone's got him. So unfortunately, not doing much heavy lifting despite his great scoring. For those who put the VC on him, well done. That's one of the better captain scores for the week. And then kind of dual underperformers next to him in Doherty and Ridley. Doherty is a tricky one. I think for those that jumped off him last week and went to someone like Will Day, that looked like a really genius move, although I think there's a chance Day gets suspended this week. And even this week, if Day wasn't suspended, like Doherty today or Ridley today, something I'd be looking at. I have a feeling it's going to be hard though, because his price is going to be up 450-ish, 454 now. Already made 90k, which is pretty crazy. And the thing is, he kind of still looks like he could be a keeper 100 plus. He is... In 3 weeks, he's become the number 1 mid. He's gone past both Newcomb and Warple. And I think it's also reflected in CBAs. I was a little bit worried his scoring wouldn't persist in games where they got beaten badly, but both in the Sydney game and this game against Geelong, he's managed to score well in both. The CBAs should continue to go up. His body and its history is obviously a bit of a concern, but yeah, he's a potential keeper at 450. There's not as much value left in him, but I don't mind him as an option. It's just a wait and see on what happens with the tribunal next week. Otherwise, it might be someone that we look to next week. What's interesting is we should get lots of cheap options down back. So Stewart had a poorer game today. I think he still ended up with 90 SuperCoach. Was it 92? Why can't I see his score if I scroll down? What's happening? I guess there's a lot of people on, so it's probably not working as well. 92. So he lost another 30k today. What's his break even at? His break-even's at 69. Okay, so was this his bottom week? It is. Although depending on how he scores this week with the 167 coming out, it may go up again next week. What's his projected? 103. So even if he scores 103, he'll go up 15k, and then he'll have another big break-even and kind of go down. Is West Coast a good matchup for defenders? Not sure. But anyway, this is a pretty good price. And if you're listening last week, originally my plan was to go Ridley to Stewart in one trade here, which I could definitely still do because Stewart is cheap. Um, now, interestingly, like Sicily had a poor game this week as well. Where are you, Sicily? So he dropped 27k. He's had what 112, yeah, the 76 this week, and he's probably got a pretty big break even, 145. So at 580k, he's someone that it could be an early upgrade target as well for people. So what, even with a projected 92, he loses another 20k. That puts him down to 560. That's a very good choice. Probably rather have him than Stewart at the moment, although Stewart's got the good buy. He scored well against GWS last time. GWS are not good at the moment. Hawks could win that, honestly. So yeah, Sicily's an interesting option. And then what, Sinclair is the other one that's probably worth talking about that I don't have in my defense at the moment. So yeah, at 570 7k now, he's already lost 50k. He's up against Collingwood this week, which is the toughest. But that's 63 at round 3 means he's still got a 154 break even. Even with a ton, he loses another 22 and 23k. He gets down to the 550s, which is very cheap for him. Though this run's pretty tough. I'm not sure if I prefer him over Stewart just because Stewart's got the nice buy, but I think somewhere around here, maybe around this North Adelaide GWS, this is like a nice time to pick up Sinclair. So, yeah, I think it's pretty interesting for defenders at the moment. I'll have a look at overall, but Daws is got to be like D1 at the moment. And then after that, Dawson, we got to talk about Dawson as well. Dawson and Sard's up there, but I think it's probably still going to be, if you like Daws, Dawson, Sinclair, Sicily, Stewart are probably still the 6 that I'm targeting. Doherty, yeah. So people will be asking, like, can I trade out Doherty this week? I'm like interested to hear what others think, but I think he's just a hold at this point. I think he'll bounce back. Walsh coming back should put him more to half back, and Mitch McGovern was injured again, which I think also probably helps his scoring a touch. Or at least I'm hoping at this point. What's his break even? 143. He's gonna lose even more money again. But sub 500k Doherty is just ridiculous for those that didn't start him. And then Ridley was okay. This is just okay again. Redmond's clearly the number one out of defense at the moment. I think like his average is kind of what he is. He's like low 90s, 90. So it's not an urgent thing for me to trade out Ridley at this point because he's basically priced at what he is. But if I can move him on, I probably would like to. And then, yeah, this will be interesting here. Break even on Gimby, 18. All right, so he's still got more. Gimby, he's still got more money to make. Obviously, a down game. I think everyone that owns him has him on field though. 96% of those that own him started him. I assume the 4% had him on the bench, just like aren't actually playing. McKenna was very good. He's making nice money, and then Cowan and Wilmot are just disappointing. They've still got low break even, so just hold on to them, whatever. But even with like looping them with Constable, still only getting a 50, so that's not great. Can I loop them this week? I can loop this way. So Cowan on the bench because that's the Thursday night game, and then I have to pick by Friday night with the Gold Coast game. But yeah, okay, this is not good at the moment. In the midfield, so I guess like the talking point is the no 700k mid. So no Oliver is a bit of a disaster at the moment to the point where like I'm getting desperate to like maybe I want to try and force him into my side, which is not good. Because like just trading in 700k players almost never works out. You have to give up too much to get them. Then they almost never perform at their price. But Oliver is just so hard to not own and watch. The flip side of that is Laird that people have seen. And by the way, like I think is Oliver gone up in price even a little bit? He's gone up 6k. And this is the like if you're picking a 700k player and this is what you get over the first 4 weeks, you are so happy. You've got the 131 average, which is more than what he's priced at. He's gone up in money, so people that didn't start him like me are going to have a hard time getting him. And his break even is still not even that bad, 127. So if he puts out a 120, lose a little bit of cash, like that's not helping someone like me. And his fixture's still nice from here as well. So Oliver, great pickup. But the flip side of this is Laird. So Laird's already lost 50k. He's averaged 102, which is worse than pretty much most of your discount mids as well. Like I'm not enjoying owning Cogs, and he's a 95. I'm not enjoying like Ridley. That's a 90. Oh, it's averaging Doherty. It's so bad. So this is really bad. And the break even's 163. He's going to lose more money this week. Non-owners can pick him up for low 600k. If it looks like he'll turn it around. It's really hard to know what's going to happen though, because Dawson is just so good in that midfield at the moment, and that's who I still didn't look at in the defense. So Dawson is 620k at the moment, gone up a fair bit from his starting price already. His break even is 67, so if you want to get him in it this week. So the last two weeks he's played mid, and he's gone 114, 173, and then with that 173, if you watch the game, he was just so good. He was like 96% efficiency. He was hitting 60-meter lasers with his kicking to like leads on targets, putting him into scoring positions. And then we moved back behind the ball and was taking kick-ins. He was also hitting like 60-meter kick-ins to uncontested crow marks. Like his kicking is so good. So I think this might affect Led a little bit, but Dawson's pretty tricky, right? Because if you don't bring him in this week, you kind of have to wait until his price starts to come back down again. But that might not be until like 7, 8, 9, 10 or something like that. You're going to miss this Hawthorn game, which is pretty nice. I mean, Carlton's a harder matchup, even though it's at Adelaide Oval. Collingwood's a harder matchup, but Geelong's nice. St Kilda, who knows what they'll be like by round 9. The fixture's not great. Like the fixture definitely opens up more. It feels like back end. This is a tricky pick. Do you want to get in Dawson this week? Especially because at 620, you're going to be able to pick up guys like Sinclair, Stewart, Doherty for low 500s. But it was a big deal not owning him this week, obviously. Well, it was 100 points on Doherty. All right, so yeah, for the 700k mids, if you picked Oliver, you're flying. If you picked Laird, it's worse than my situation at the moment. So Bontempelli is fine. Not much to talk about there. Green's fine. Cogs is a disaster. Moving into my forward line. The Kelly to Cogs trade's been so bad. And I think Kelly's actually one of the ones I do want to look at because he's 78%, 70% plus mid now. He's scored well, basically. If you look at his points per minute in all these games, it's 112 average, and that has a concussed 80 in there. So this is someone that's, he's cheap. He's only 583k. He only went up a little bit. What's his break even now? 78. Also got a low break even. He's got the Hawks matchup now. The fixture does start to get a little bit harder then, like Brisbane, Sydney, Bulldogs, Collingwood, Saints, Geelong, Richmond. This is hard. But he is, I think, a clear M1 for them at the moment. I'm pretty sure he's a top 8 mid at 583k. It's a really good price point. So I've got eyes on Kelly this week. Rest of the mids, Setterfield put together an 87. So he's up nearly 100k for the year. 444. Slowed down, I guess, the last couple of weeks, 87 and 82 after the 147. And the interesting thing here is with that 147 rolling out and 2 kind of average weeks, his break even's roughly what he's priced at. Melbourne are a harder team to score on. Collingwood then after that, who are hard to score on. These are not 2 good matchups. If Geelong gets right, that's not... I mean, it should be fine. And then Ports and Brisbane are tough matchups. So I don't know, 4 out of the next 5 games, I don't like for Setterfield. I think he's someone that you could potentially move on this week, to be honest. Especially if it gets you stuff. And I mean, if I want to get Oliver this week, then Setterfield or someone, I guess I'd move on. How big of a priority is getting in Oliver? Probably not because he's 700k, but yep. Hopper... So just 75, which is okay. His break even's still low, so I don't really want to move him on, just for 15. And then Warple's only made, 40k for the year. He's got this 45 in his rolling average, which is why his break even's so high at 80. So he's going to lose money next week. But he must have been injured in this game. Or subbed out or something, or sub on. But so Warple, you would likely have Day missing a week, which means Warple should have a better role next week. I think he was not good today, and he only got once going once the rain was coming down. I don't know. I think I just want to move him on. I don't want him in my team for 2 more weeks, which is almost what you're committing to if you have him this week, because he's got to ride out the 80, and then you hoping he gets a good score, gets 2 more price averages, gets to 400k or something. Maybe I just want to get rid of him this week. Hopper I want to keep, I think. Swans is a tough matchup. Melbourne's a tough matchup. It's not like his fixture's great. And then Ashcroft's fine. I mean, he keeps on plugging on. That's good. Happy to have him. Mackenzie's a bit of a problem. Once again, he got played like 70% forward, which is not great. His break-even's 13, so he's still got a little bit more money to make. But once this 89 rolls out of his score, he might be ready to move on from next week if he can't do something good, which is really disappointing because it's only been 83k. He's someone that, like, once again, with day out, maybe he gets more mid-time. He really needs it. Otherwise, his scoring's just not going to be good enough playing forward for a poor team. Hollands I thought was okay. Score wasn't great, but I mean, this I didn't expect them to be so competitive with North, which I think hurt him. Crows are in good form, so like I thought this fixture was going to be quite soft, but really it's probably not until West Coast that actually is a soft game now. We'll see how he goes. He's making nice money. It's fine. Baker, like good money, but like he's going to stall his cash in a bit with this 47 once the 96 or whatever it was, 95 from last week rolls out. But that's right. He's making good money. And then Davey is just like, I'm not going to be able to cash in on him anytime soon. All right, the English trade-in from a couple of weeks ago paid dividends because it's 139 to a 145. So he's made pretty big cash over that time, like 67k while Darcy went down. So really happy with that. And he's a every week vice captain option at the moment. Who have they got? Port. Lysette's no good. So I mean, yeah, he's vice captain or captain again this week. Marshall's a tricky one. Look, obviously had the soft Ruck matchup with the Wits laid out. And if you're a Wits owner, that is just super unlucky. Hopefully you're able to trade him to Grundy, which would have been the best option. And like at least you got good points, you got good cash gen out of that. But yeah, Marshall's tough because it was on finally for a good game for a good score and got subbed out at 3/4 time. So he's averaging 96 for 500. He's barely moved in price. He plays the Pies this week, which is McStay R1. So look, he should score right in that. I'd continue to persist with him. Forwards, Dunkley had another bad week. Yeah, he just doesn't look like the same Dunkley, does he? He's still doing a lot of the tall marking through the midfield, although he seems to get beaten up and get hospital kicks almost every time for that. But we just haven't seen some of the domination with scoring that we saw in the Dogs. Maybe it's because he's not playing that handball happy kind of Bevo style anymore, but yeah, probably not as good as what we were hoping to see out of him. But definitely, I thought we'd see a lot better. Taranto continues to be good. I mean, he's in contention for F2 behind Cheezel at the moment. Rosie had a poorer game. I think got tagged for a lot of this, but still, like good result considering. Goulden, once again, good. Like, yeah, this is a fine pick. I think some talk of people wanting to like trade him. Like, don't do that. And then Zeeble and Cheezel look like they're keepers at the moment, which is crazy to see. Chandler hurt a little bit for those that brought him in. Got some junk late, which helped him move up in the score. But if you bought him at 200k, you got 46k price rise. Still -4 break even. And against Bombers this week, should be able to put some more points on the board. But yeah, I mean, that's like one of the ones that brought in round one as well. That's been good money. And then Fergus Green had a really good score today. Keeps a couple of goals early, which helped because then got some nice scaling off the back of it. So yeah, that's his big price rise, and he's now got a nice break even as well. So he's going to make good money for us. All right. So in terms of trade-in targets. In terms of downgrade options, probably what we care about most. Let's have a look at break evens. Break even. All right, so yeah, Van Ruin. What if 53 was his last, 71's his average? It's probably the number one option this week. Michelini's been a bad miss, but no one really saw how good his scoring was going to be perfectly honest. I mean, dropping 103 is unheard of, but it looks like in the last 2 weeks he's really benefited from Dawson leaving the half back and moving into the mid. Just more points to go around down there. Brockman got subbed out today, not really an option. McVee was kind of someone I pointed out, I think last week, as if you like, just because he had a couple of poor games early, you could probably still get on him if you really had to get on someone. Scored well again, so he's actually going to make decent money for I don't know, it's like 5% ownership. He's like very low ownership. Young's job security should be better now with Tarrant having a setback in the twos in the VFL. So 142k, not great. But I mean, he had a 61, got a negative break even. Like, this is all right. And then, I mean, Phillips still worried about job security. Pickett's, I guess, kind of interesting because he's had two decent games now. It's on the bubble. The other one that I wanted to have a shout with was Ryan, who's not low break even. Samson Ryan, here we go. He's a 156k now. So with Nankervis injured and Soldo, I think still 2 weeks away, although checking the injury reports this week, he is probably the number one ruck for the Tigers, which makes him, I think, somewhat interesting as someone that could reset this break even and make a bunch of extra money. Also potentially be an on-field option if you need him for that. But yeah, so there's a few options there depending on what you've got. But yeah, JVR or Ryan are probably the two at the moment, which is a little bit tricky because that's where a lot of people have a lot of their good stuff. Okay, and then looking at my team, what are the weakest spots? It's definitely D6 and M8. They're probably the ones I need to get off the field most desperately. So if I'm making trades, I'm having a bit of an eye on that as well. So I haven't played around with trades at all, but just from hearing me talk, you can probably figure out that Setterfield and Warple are ones I'd be interested in trading to see what happens. So like I could bring in Oliver and Van Ruin or something like that, move a Rosie to the mids or whoever and get a Van Ruin or even a Ryan in here. So that's possible. The problem with bringing in Oliver is it also like really solidifies the loss that I take, because I've lost four rounds of points. I got no discount, but do I want to keep betting against Oliver is probably the other problem. This 121 should have been much more. He just had an off game where, despite all the contested numbers, he handballed it to Eagles players like half a dozen times. So this is potentially a trade this week. It does mean that I lose out on any future cash generation from Setterfield and Warple, and Oliver's definitely going to go backwards in price at some point. So this is like a negative value kind of trade, but it is probably more points at the moment. Doesn't get any of the bad rookies off field. That's probably the only trade I'm looking at this week. I mean, I could trade on Ridley or Doherty, which I don't know if I really want to do. If I could trade out Setterfield, Warple, and what if I boost? Which you probably shouldn't be doing, Doherty. Can I get Oliver? Can I get Van Ruin? 589k. It's like you can't get Dawson, which is probably the most tempting. Day's probably not playing this week. Okay. I mean, it's hard moving on from Setterfield because he's a solid field every week at the moment. I don't really want to do that. Otherwise, there's not really much else for me at the moment. Oliver's probably the one that's killing me the most. That's probably how I stop the bleeding. Cogs is awful to own. I guess I could trade out of Cogs as well. Oh, this might be interesting. Not that I'm advocating for this. All right, so if I do these two and I go like Oliver, Rosie, just take the cheapest one. Okay, this is probably good because like I was thinking if I do this, can I get anyone like any of these cheap people up today? But I can't. If they played for whatever reason, I can't. So that's okay. I mean, I could probably get rid of probably trade Setterfield instead. Get rid of Warple, and then even then I still can't. I have to get rid of like Ginby or something. All right, so that's not gonna happen. That's good. I shouldn't be using another boost. I've already used two. Like I need to hold on to them for upgrades. Okay, so that's the team at the moment. Biggest problems are definitely Doherty, Cogs, and then not having Oliver, to a lesser extent Dawson. It's not like a huge deal in the scheme of things. Probably Oliver's the biggest problem. So it's just whether or not I try and fix it this week is the biggest issue. Otherwise, everything is so. Getting rid of Ridley at some point, but that probably can wait until buys at this point if he just keeps going around 90. And I think that's everything. Yeah. If you've got any questions, suggestions, any of that, hit me up below. I'll try and answer all the questions best I can, as always. Otherwise, you can catch me on the Fantasy Take TV podcast this week, or on Twitter, which the link to that is in down the below. And if you watch my fantasy stuff, I'll put up a video for that either today or tomorrow as well. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.